me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. He did it again. I'd be lying to y'all if I said I wasn't excited about this move. And I told y'all, just stick with me. I'm gonna show y'all a thing or two. I'm gonna tell y'all a thing or two. Look, I'm not always right, and I tell y'all that all the time. But when I am right, y'all gonna know about it because I'm gonna be the first to tell you. Just like when I'm wrong, I'll usually be the first to tell you I was wrong. And if need be, I'll offer up a double up. In this case, though, I've been knocking them down one after another in free agency, telling you what this team would probably be looking to go after. Now, some of the signs were there, and if you were paying attention and you were connecting dots, as I often do, then you would have been able to put some of these things together yourself. However, in order to know how good of a fit some of these players would be, you'd have to be watching other teams that aren't the Commanders, and you'd have to be watching them pretty closely. Which is why I was able to tell you Frankie Louvu would be a great fit here. Which is why I would be able to tell you that Jeremy Chin, would be a good fit here. Why I was able to tell you that Michael Davis, cornerback of the Los Angeles Chargers, would be a great fit here. And again, some of these things just make sense. In the case of Michael Davis, his former defensive backs coach, or one of the defensive back coaches, was Tommy Donatel, who's now our defensive backs coach. And I forget the capacity in which Tommy Donatel was in Los Angeles. I don't think he was the cornerbacks coach or the defensive backs coach, but he was some sort of coach that put him in that group, right, overseeing the defensive backs. I don't know if he was actually the defensive backs coach there or not, but I know he had something to do with the defensive backs in L.A. So it made me think about Michael Davis. And Michael Davis, to me, forget about Tommy Donatel, even if he wasn't here, which he is, which made it a lot easier for me to connect that dot. But even if he wasn't here, just knowing what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want to do defensively, what they did in Dallas, and they said it's going to be different. They said, if you think we're going to run what we ran in Dallas, you're sadly mistaken. Okay, I believe you. I take you at face value. But as they said already, specifically Dan Quinn, everybody will run some form of cover three. Everybody runs some form of man coverage. Everybody runs some form of blah, 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 which he's right. Everybody's running similar coverages. It's how you implement them, is what kind of players do you have to play those coverages that make it successful. All right? Everybody plays some form of man. Are you good enough? Do you have the players to play man? Well, we didn't have the players, which is why we couldn't play a lot of man. And when we did, we would get cooked. Enter in Michael Davis. The reason this is a great signing, the reason I wanted him here, the reason I advocated them going after him is because he can play press man coverage. This is a 4'3", 440 guy. This is a guy with long limbs that can get up in the face, delete the airspace, and run with every receiver in this league, probably not named Tyreek Hill. And even Tyreek Hill, Michael Davis would run with in his time in LA when Tyreek Hill was a Chief, okay? He's a guy that can flat out pick him up and put him down. He locates the football. He's a guy that Chargers fans really liked a lot. And they were upset when they wouldn't play press coverage, when they wouldn't allow him to do the things that he did best, which was get into the face of a receiver, play bump and run with that guy down the field. A lot of times the Chargers were playing off, coverage, and it was inexplicable, especially when you have a corner like Michael Davis. So I knew that Dan Quinn and company wanted to play a little bit more man. At least that's what they did in Dallas. That's what one of their calling cards were. Now, I don't know if that's what they're ultimately going to do here in Washington, but you'd like that option to be available to you. And I can tell you right now, after seeing what we saw last year with Emmanuel Forbes, and I'm not saying that he can't play press coverage, but I don't think he can play a lot of press coverage. I wouldn't put him in bump right now, especially after what we saw last year. We know damn well Benjamin St. Juste can't play any press coverage. So if you have any aspirations of playing any kind of man coverage here, you need to go get man coverage corners. Michael Davis is one of the better ones. When I think about press cover corners in this league, he's one of the better ones. So it's not a surprise that they went and they signed him to a one-year deal. Unlike the Noah Igbenogany deal, this is a starting caliber corner. He will be starting for us. Barring some kind of catastrophe, Michael Davis is starting for us week 1 opposite of, more likely than not, Emmanuel Forbes. If Forbes checks out and he takes the coaching well and his confidence is back, he'll be starting at one corner and Michael Davis will be starting at the other corner. And now we just got to go find our nickel in the draft. This is ideal. This is what you wanted to see happen because it takes another need off the board for us. Now you just got to go get your nickel, right? Now you can go get the tackles, go get your nickel, and now we can go play ball. We can go do whatever we like. Yeah, this was the type of signing I was expecting. Okay, I thought this was more of a week 1 signing, to be honest with you. Ended up being a week 2 signing, and something tells me they did this over the weekend. Michael Davis had an interview and a press conference with the media today. So did Austin Eckler. And so him being in the building, signing his contract, tells me that this deal was done over the weekend and nobody reported it. They didn't know. So they got busy over the weekend. They signed 2 corners, more likely than not. The only one that got out was Noah Igbenogany. But this is the more important and impactful of the 2 signings of the corners. As I mentioned to you on the show previous, Noah Igbenogany is purely special teams depth. All right, back end of the roster, back into the corner, back room, roster spot depth. Guy that won't see the field unless things have gone horribly wrong for us and taken a turn for the worse. Noah Igbenogany not going to see the field in a defensive capacity. Meanwhile, Michael Davis is starting for us day 1. And he's going to come in here and hopefully play the type of football that I know he's capable of playing. And I talked about him when we went over the cornerback position, when we were previewing free agency. I said, this is the guy. Remember, I said, this is the guy. Hey, this is the guy. I've been telling you that all offseason. This is the guy. Told you that about Frankie Louvu. Told you that about Jeremy Chin. I told you that now about Michael Davis. And I very strongly advocated that they go after Bobby Wagner, although I did not think he would want us. They went and got Bobby Wagner as well. So I'm telling you, and I've been telling you, Michael Davis, that's the guy. That's the guy I'm looking for. They went out and got him. I've said this already before the acquisition of Michael Davis, that this defense has a chance to be dangerous, flat out scary, even with the diabolical minds that are behind these players that they're putting together, and Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., and you look at the rest of this staff, Ken Norton Jr., and all the guys that they've assembled, Jason Simmons as a pass game coordinator, and Tommy Donatel, and this whole staff that they've put together on the defensive side. When you look at what they've put together from a roster standpoint, and they're not done, they're going to get some more pieces in the draft, most notably nickel corner, right? But the rest of the pieces are put together. I still think they could use another defensive end, a starting defensive end. Again, they don't have to do that because they've signed 80 guys, but 3 of them are on 1-year deals. So 3 of them won't be here next year. The only guy that they signed of the 4 this offseason to a multi-year deal is Dorrance Armstrong. The rest of these guys won't be here next year, more likely than not, unless they have a really good season and they bring them back on another 1-year deal. Okay? So I would be proactive and I would go out and draft a guy, but you might not want to start that guy's clock yet. Right? You may not want to start that rookie's clock quite yet by drafting him, knowing you got all these veterans in front of him and he may not play as much. There's 2 different ways of looking at it. You could look at it that way. You could say, hey, you come in here, you learn from some of these veterans, get you a little bit of experience, get your feet wet a little bit, and then next year you're ready to hit the ground running when we're really trying to win something, when we're serious about trying to take that next step. There are 2 ways of looking at it, 2 school of thoughts. We'll see what they decide to do at defensive end, but this is a big move at corner for us. I would still be greedy and look for a boundary. Again, same principle, right? Same premise. Michael Davis is on a 1-year deal, okay? We don't have a ton of depth at corner as is. Again, You still got Benjamin St. Juste. He's on the last year of his deal. Michael Davis is signing a 1-year deal, I believe. Okay, I think it's a 1-year deal. And so he won't be here next year again unless he has a big time year. They like him a lot and they bring him back on another 1-year deal or so. And so again, you don't have a ton of cornerback depth regardless next year. So instead of putting yourself in a position where you need 3 or 4 corners next year, how about you just get a corner this year in addition to your nickel, and now you got 2 guys with a year of experience under their belt. So again, next year when you're ready to try to take that next step, there aren't a bunch of guys coming in trying to learn how you do things. They've already gotten it. Even if they don't play a ton, they've gotten the gist of what's going on here, and hopefully they'll be ready to contribute in a meaningful way next season. Again, 2 school of thoughts. We'll see what they decide to do, but this signing is massive because it takes one of the biggest needs that we had going into the draft off the table. Now you just need a nickel. And you don't have to rush, right? Whereas you're looking at the corners and saying, do we need to get one in the second round? Got to get one in the third round if you don't get one in the second round. Now you get a nickel. You can get a nickel in the second, get a nickel in the third. We got 3 third-round picks. Again, I think they're going to package up some picks to go up back into the first round to get a tackle. But we'll see what happens. They may just stand pat, and we may just have a bunch of picks to play around with. Who knows? But at the end of the day, this was a big signing. I still don't think they're done. I still think there's a swing tackle in our future. Yosh Nijman is the guy I would go after. But again, we'll see what they decide to do. Nothing's imminent right now, but this was the one that had to happen. I'm so glad they made it happen. And as I've told you before, this defense has a chance to be really good, and they're going to keep us in ball games. This doesn't change the way that I feel about this team's prospects of the upcoming season. I still think this is a work in progress. A lot of work needs to be done to this roster overall. A lot of these are short-term fixes, which is what happens when you're, turning over a roster and you're going through the rebuilding phase. A lot of 1-year deals, a lot of guys that are going to come in here to help you set the tone, but won't ultimately be here when the tone is set, right? So, again, I like the direction that they're going in. I like that we're going to be competitive. All of these moves, especially moves like this one made here with Michael Davis, are going to help us be competitive year 1 of this Dan Quinn, Adam Peters regime. Now the question is, to what extent? And that's really largely going to be determined by how well they perform on offense, and more specifically, how well that quarterback they selected number 2 overall performs in his rookie season. But again, I digress. So this is a massive signing. Tell me what you think about it. Let me do this real quick. I have to. Let me just pat myself on the back, man. I'm killing the game right now. But I told you, if it makes sense, if it's logical, if it's rational, I won't have a hard time figuring it out. The problem with the last group is nothing ever made sense. Nothing. Nothing that they did ever made a lick of sense. So it was hard to actually come up with rational ideas because nothing they did made sense. Even down to some of the final decisions that were made before he was fired. Nothing ever made sense. Clearly, this group comes in and everything they're doing is making sense. Hence, I'm able to predict some of the moves that are being made. But anyway, I digress. I'm more excited. Forget about me being right, which I am very excited about. But I'm even more excited, 10 times more excited about the fact that we're getting football players that fit what they want to do, that are going to help us be competitive in year number 1. You should be excited about this signing. Even if you don't know Michael Davis, trust me. I'm telling you, he can play the cornerback position, which is why I advocated us going after him in the first place. Okay? This is a really good signing. Just like Jeremy Chin was, just like Frankie Louvu is, just like Dorrance Armstrong is, just like Austin Eckler is. And we can go on and on with all of the signings that they've done this offseason that have been really good and lead to us feeling a lot better about this offseason than we might have felt going in. Again, I'm not changing how I feel about the upcoming season. I still think this is a 5 to 7 win team, maybe 8 if the ball bounces our way. But I'll tell you this much. Prior to going into this free agency period, I thought it was 5 to 7, 7 on the high side, no higher than 7. 5 is probably a little bit low. 6 is where I was expecting us to be, right? After all of the moves made defensively in particular, I'm going to tell you we're going to be in some ball games. Whether we win these games or not, more likely than not, we won't. Because when you're a young team and you're trying to figure some things out, and we're not super young anymore, by the way. But when I say young, in terms of gelling and meshing together, these guys haven't played with one another. They don't know how to feed off of each other yet. They don't know what that guy next to them is going to do. We got almost a brand new offensive line. The only guy that may be back from last year's line is Sam Cosmi. What am I saying? He'll be the only guy back. Right now, that's the way it looks. Andrew Wiley could be on the line with him starting. And so you could have 2 starters. But if he is, he won't be in the same spot that he was starting in last year because he's not going to be starting at tackle. And so who's to say what happens when it's all said and done? But we got so many moving parts. It's hard to see us pulling out some of those close ball games and knowing how to get it done in those crucial, critical situations. But I'm going to tell you this. We're going to find ourselves in a lot of these fourth quarters with a chance, which is all you can ask for as a fan, which wasn't the case a lot of times last year. We were getting our asses handed to us a lot of times in the fourth quarter last year, and the game was no longer in the balance. So I think this defense that they're putting together is going to put us in a position to be in some ball games. And if what they've done in the past, if their track record that precedes them follows them here to Washington, and specifically talking about Jason Simmons, Joe Witt Jr., and Dan Quinn in particular, if their track record that precedes them follows them to Washington in terms of turnovers, we could win a lot more games than I'm giving us credit for. But I'm not willing to go there yet. And I'm not going to be the one that spikes the Kool-Aid, okay? I told y'all that already. I'm not spiking the Kool-Aid. You can spike your own cup, all right? Don't put it in the entire bowl, right? So everybody gets drunk. You want to spike your own Kool-Aid? Get you a cup, spike your drink, and then you sip it, all right? Or guzzle it or whatever you're doing this time of the year. I'm not spiking the punch like I usually do. I'm just telling you, the defense right now, as constructed, shit's off the hook, okay? This is going to be a damn good unit. Now, let's just see what we do with nickel. That's all we really have left. Think about it. We went from, damn, this defense needs to be repaired. Like, this defense needs all types of work. Just take it to the body shop and tell them, hey, do whatever you want with it. But this shit needs work. To now, we got all of our safeties. We got all of our linebackers. Defensive line is set, even though I still think I don't love anybody starting opposite of Dorrance Armstrong right now. The guy that looks like he's probably going to start, if they don't do anything else, is probably Dante Fowler Jr. I like my Dante Fowler Jr., as I mentioned already, coming off the bench in a limited capacity, playing with high-octane energy, only playing 25 to 30 snaps a game. That's how I like my Dante Fowler Jr. He might be starting for us. I would prefer that he doesn't. Personally, I would like us to draft an edge rusher, have him start opposite of Dorrance Armstrong, and have that be the starting forward. That would be the only tweak that I would make. So all I'm saying we need is a nickel and a starting defensive end. But after getting Michael Davis, you have your defense pretty much set at this point. Outside of a nickel, and who knows, Quan Martin could be our nickel. And I could be thinking that we need a nickel, and they could be looking at Quan Martin saying, we already got our nickel. We'll see. Again, I want a true nickel, a true corner. But we'll see what they decide to do. Either way, they're going to draft more corners, right? We're not done at the cornerback position. They're going to draft a corner, whether it's another boundary, a nickel, both. they're going to draft more because we need more depth at corner. We don't have nearly enough corners. So, love this move. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Michael Davis signed to the Commanders on what I believe is a 1-year deal. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw 1-year deal for Michael Davis. I'm feeling damn good, man. I can't even lie to you, man. He continues to cook. Let Chef P cook. Damn, that smells good. Damn, that aroma coming from the kitchen with Chef P. That shit smells delicious. Boy, he's cooking it up in there. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on another installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I'll see you guys next time. Let him cook. Let him cook. LouieTeeNetwork.